Hi, everyone. I'm here with Peyton, and we're going to just talk about fears. Peyton, can you tell me something that you're afraid of?
Tornadoes and hurricanes.
Tornadoes and hurricanes. Can you tell me a time when you were afraid? It doesn't have to be necessarily tornado or hurricane related, just a time that you were afraid.
The one time at camp when the tornadoes... The one time at church here when the tornado sirens went off.
Oh, during junior church?
When we were at junior church.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a little scary, huh?
It was, because I was crying.
Yeah.
And Kellen was too, so.
Yeah, and that's normal. Yeah. So when you're afraid, how do you get through your fear?
I pray to Jesus and ask us for help.
Awesome. Hello everyone, Jamie here from the NOIC Godcast, where we offer Wacky Wisdom Weekly from God's Word. On today's episode, we're going to be looking at how looking at our past fears can help us face our current fears. Talking about fears this month, and which I truly believe that affects all of us. There's not one person at this table or listening right now that is not at least afraid of something, whether it's heights or spiders or rejection or, Google Earth. Just for an example, Google Earth is a little creepy. It's very creepy. Don't worry about it.
You're speaking from experience.
Yes, Google Earth is creepy, just like spiders. But what I think we forget is that our fears change as we get older. We touched on it, I think it was last week, about Juliet and her fears and how they seem so silly or ridiculous, but to her, they're real and true fears. So we know that there are not monsters under her bed. We were aware of this. There may be a dust bunny.
They wouldn't fit, so.
Oh, is it really small?
No, it's just full of stuff.
I was gonna say there may be a
it keeps
dust
the fears
bunny,
away, A
Cheetos wrapper. She likes Cheetos. She does like Cheetos. So there may be a Cheetos wrapper, but definitely no monsters under her bed. But she is convinced that there is a high enough chance that there is one that she's willing to go get you and have you check. But if we look far back in the past, I mean really, really far back. I mean years and years ago. Josh, you were 1'6".
I don't think so. Short time ago.
And you were probably afraid that there might be a monster under your bed or in your closet. He was once afraid that the very thing that he was trying to convince Juliet not to be afraid of, he was fearful of. This is because Josh is now older and mature and has seen that monsters are not real, and he has had enough evidence shown to him that he knows that he does not have to be afraid. Our fears change over time, so now it isn't monsters under our bed, but fear of starting a new ministry, fear of losing a family member, fear of making a fool out of yourself, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, fear of blank, whatever your fear is. And these are real things that you are facing, and you don't know how you can get out of the fearful mindset. You need to refocus and remember. Isaiah 41:10 says, "Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God, and I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness." And Joshua 1:9 says, "Have not I commanded thee, be strong and be of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest." And Psalms 23:4 says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." So these are like a few verses that everyone uses when there's someone that's fearful or they're going through a rough time. But notice that none of these verses say that you're not going to face the fear. You are definitely going to have to face it. However, you don't have to face it alone. God is always with us, but somehow we forget that God was there for us before. And then when we get a new fear, it's like, we're just done thanking God. Like, thank you for allowing me to, be able to get through this thing. And you get another one. You're like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get through this one? We totally forget what has happened in the past. So again, we need to refocus ourselves on God. Then we need to take a look back and remember all the times that he already brought us through our fears. And he was there then, and he is here with us now. I have some questions for you guys.
Pop quiz.
Pop quiz. Not really pop quiz, just personal answers. It's fine.
Okay.
What is a fear that God has brought you guys through? in the past.
Apparently monsters under my bed.
Yes, you had monsters under your bed. Like a real fear, like a fear in life that you had and you didn't know how you were going to face it. But now you're looking back and you're like, that wasn't a big deal because God had it the whole time. I should have probably asked you guys beforehand, but I like just making you guys suffer.
I'm praying in public.
Okay, yeah.
So it's kind of a funny way I got over the fear because I just had a fear of praying in public, and I told Josh this one day, and I told Pastor one day, and I told Miguel
flicking the bird out of the nest.
Reading Bible verses in Sunday school.
I like to push people towards their fears because that's what Jesus is.
That wasn't push. That was a like rain right through to my fear. Go ahead.
And the thing about it is that like there was no saying no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're all walking up to the altar, and Josh is like, Brother Kevin, would you lead us in prayer? Knowing how I feel about it.
He's good for that.
Yes. So I was like, sure, I can do this.
Yeah.
And like the whole time I'm like, you can do it. Just act like no one else is here. You know, and like all the other cheesy advice that people tell you to get over fears doesn't work.
No.
You know what I mean? So ultimately, I was just like, well, I'm just going to pray to God among God's people. Like, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Worst thing you say something weird.
Yeah, which, you know, hey, now that you guys know me, well, yeah. So I say weird things sometimes, but just the confidence of praying in front of God's people, okay, gave me the confidence to pray into public. So now I'm able to pray not in front of God's people because God said, I'm going to help you here and now, but this is not the end of the road for you. You know what I mean? And like, God is so much in control. It's like, hey, you should tell Josh about your fear. He'll help you with it. And me thinking like, yeah, he's going to counsel me like in the office or something. No. He just
To the wolves to go.
Sink or swim.
So, so that got me through the fear. And I never thought how much I would actually need to get over that fear. But looking back, since I've gotten over that fear, it's like particularly like in life-wise, like when the students don't pray, I pray. And it's like, I always think back to like, wow, if Josh wouldn't have called me to pray, I would have never been able to do this.
Mysterious ways.
Yes.
Are you saying you're mysterious?
I'm not saying that.
You're not saying you're God, are you?
No.
Okay.
He's just weird.
That was the yes.
That's the implication there.
Josh works in weird ways.
Mine's not spiritual.
Well, that's fine.
But probably the C-section. Like, I was terrified of having surgery, never having one, and God brought us through, and that's what ended up saving Kari's life. But I was scared.
Yeah.
I can remember it's probably been 6-7 years ago. I'm not exactly sure what the timeline was. 6 to 7.
We said a long time ago.
I was in a really awful, really extremely awful work situation. Don't need the details, but it was really awful. And so I felt like I was supposed to quit my job because of just the dynamics there. And the way I was raised was that's not something you do. Like to not provide for your family is like being an infidel, and that's just not something you do. And so that was just such a huge, like, I remember crying to the Lord, praying to the Lord. I remember like that was so huge. And I had the fear. My fear was not being able to provide for my family. You know, we had a newborn at the time. Literally, it was the year she was born, I think. So I guess that'd be 6 years ago. And we hadn't been married very long. And so it was just very much a fear of not being able to provide for them, what could happen to them because of something I had done. So letting them down. And fast forward, like the Lord through that led me to full-time ministry. I literally left my secular job and started working for the church. And so God, and even that was a leap of faith. But that was a fear that he worked out.
I would
Jamie fears being put in fields and cardboard boxes with holes at the top specifically.
Or, you know, them saying, hey, can you fit in this suitcase? I don't know, let's try. And then leaving me in there to discuss the video.
That's the best.
That was the Haiti video. because I was supposed to come out of the suitcase at the end of it, but you guys decided to put me in there, zip me up, and then you decided to go talk about the video and all the details of it, and I was inside of the suitcase.
That's so sensible, like something we do.
Yeah, so you can't even deny it.
I don't even know
It
what
was
you're
in
talking
Brenda's classroom.
about. Oh, okay.
This was before my time.
Yes.
She's been holding that in for all of these years.
I have holding grudges, man. No, but
So God also helped you overcome your fear of small space?
yes. Well, that's the thing. I didn't have a fear of small spaces until then.
Until I met you people.
And then I had something to fear because they would just leave me there. Because apparently they don't have safety zippers on the inside of
Not
suitcases.
a trunk. Not being held hostage.
I
against
am,
your will.
though. Just in a portable case. I was mobile. But so a fear of mine was the year that Josh came to us and said that we were going to be, I don't even like saying it, coordinators for camp. That was because that's a big responsibility, but then there's also other things that go along with that. And it was very scary. Very, very scary because it was fun being a minion. We're like, just tell me what to do. But now we're like, we have to tell people what to do. And that's a whole nother thing. But God I feel like he's really used that. And he has allowed everybody in the situation to be able to have a little bit of free time during camp time, whatever that is. But that was a fear when that first started. I was like, that sounds like a not good plan. But yeah. All right. Right now, if you guys will be willing to share, what is your most recent fear? Something that you just came upon. I will go first. Okay. I will allow you guys to sit there and ponder. So my fear was becoming a mom of two. Because and it wasn't really the becoming a mom again thing. Like I knew I could handle my kid and different things like that. But there's so many other things that I'm a part of. And it was an adjustment trying to figure out Tolkien. And then now I have a whole nother one. So like, it's not just like, it's not as simple as me coming in, getting my Sunday school ready or me, sitting down for the podcast. I have to figure out things. And like, I think that was that's my most recent fear, trying to figure out that balance of being a mom and ministry.
Wow, all of you were looking straight at me.
There's a reason.
I guess something that I've really been struggling with a lot lately is just what true discipleship looks at home, like at home, and making sure that I'm doing that. Yeah. Like I just feel like I missed the mark by a lot, and like that's just something that like it's a big deal to disciple them and teach them who Jesus is, and so like I just fear that I'm falling short there.
Are you looking at him?
No, we're all staring right at you.
Notice how I looked at you.
I like making.
I would say I would echo like not so much the mom thing, but I would echo like
you've not been a mom several times on this podcast.
Yes, and other places. But I agree with, like I feel the weight of being a dad, and being like the spiritual provider and failing and discipleship and spiritually, pouring into my family. But I would say something that has been, I guess, heavy on my mind a lot lately is wasting my life. And I guess that would be a fear.
Yeah.
Like getting to heaven and recognizing, like all the things you've done, all the time you had, all the resource and money you gave, it was a waste. Yeah. That terrifies me. Yeah. That's pretty big apples. And so that's something that I guess, big potatoes? There's a saying there somewhere.
I don't know.
There's a big produce, and I don't know which one it is. Anyhow, it doesn't matter.
Tomatoes?
It's not tomatoes. That would be ridiculous. But I think that...
I really love that I looked at her because I was like, big apples.
Big
and then
apples.
you're like,
That's the
was it
city.
potatoes?
That's the
I'm
city.
sorry,
The
guys.
big apple's the city. I think it's big potatoes, but it doesn't matter really. No, I have a fear of just knowing like that everything I do, the life I've lived. Here today, gone tomorrow, like it's like a vapor, could be for naught. It could be a waste. And so it's led me to being more intentional and seeking the Lord to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing it the way I'm supposed to be doing it, and it's what He wants done. And so,
That's fair. Good.
So I guess
He's afraid of saying the wrong idioms.
there's that.
Josh is not afraid of that.
I'm not. I've never had that fear before.
A recent fear, definitely teaching life-wise. I think I expressed this with you, is that like, it's one thing to like read the Bible to somebody, and then you're just like, I just read this. Do it. You know what I mean? I think with kids in general, like you need to like explain that on a level that they understand it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So the fear is that I never, ever, ever want to compromise what the Bible says. And I actually enjoy when we get to a part where there's no way to like say it other than what the Bible says. Yep. You know what I mean? So I can say, thou shalt not kill. Okay, that's clearly in the Bible. I have no problem saying that. But then there are other things that you have to like explain to them. And I don't want to, I don't want to mess that up.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's life changing.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be the person who, like, you know, when they get older, you know what I mean? And let's say LifeWise is the only church they, you know what I mean? It's not church, but it's the only time someone talks to them about God. So basically, everything that they know is what Mr. Williams said.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean? So I don't want to be a stumbling block. So hopefully, like when they do start going to church, you know what I mean? They don't look back at LifeWise and say, wow, that guy purposely
messed me up. Yeah.
You know, so that was like a huge fear for like the first couple of months for
We
me.
all have the goal of not scarring the children we minister to. Yes, that I feel that.
Yeah. No, I just think that it's really good for the people, especially that listen to us. And I think it's really easy to look at like people on a podcast or whatever and see that they don't deal with those things. And I think it's just good for us to get that out there. Like that not only did we have fears in the past, we are currently constantly going through and trying to seek the Lord's face and just different things. But
But I think that like the difference to me is like doing the podcast because there are several times like I could be watching a podcast and I'd be like, that doesn't make sense, and just turn it off and move on to the next. You know what I mean?
So you watch us weekly.
and you're just like, nope.
I find it difficult to watch the podcast because like I'm not a repeat movie watcher.
I don't watch our podcasts.
I'm like, I already know what's going to be
Yeah,
said. Like
yeah.
the jokes aren't funny. It's
Kevin, you don't laugh the first time.
I would say I probably
true.
watch I'll watch the podcast if I'm not on it, like if
Yeah.
I missed it or whatever.
Okay.
But
Right,
I
that
don't
makes
usually watch
sense.
it.
I usually scroll to the end
Yes,
for the bloopers.
yes. You gotta look at the bloopers, man.
I live the first part and I want to laugh at the second.
But to me, there's like a difference between doing the podcast and then actually officially teaching it in a classroom. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because like the podcast, like there's so many podcasts out there. A podcast has really become like an opinionated thing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But in a classroom, that is not supposed to be an opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Josh stresses us to us constantly in LifeWise. Like they don't want to hear your opinion. They want to hear what God said.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So just to remove myself out of the teaching is...
That's fair. When do we do this? Is this now?
Whenever you would like.
Or is it like...
Wherever you put it.
Yeah.
All right. After? Okay. Well, CJ says no.
Okay.
So my considerable quote today is, fears say, what if? Faith says, even if. Doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what you're going through. It's not that you're not going to go through the thing, that God's there always. And my featured content is Be All Right by Evan Kraft and Danny Gokey. Last week's trivia was, how tall do scholars believe David was at the time he fought Goliath?
Answer is A, 5'3".
I'm 5'4", 3.
So you would have been taller than David.
Yeah. Wow.
Small apples.
Small apples.
I mean, he was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, that's
So,
fair.
yeah.
Well, lad.
He was a lad.
like-
that
like-
could mean anything from young adult to
Yeah.
toddler.
Like he could be 14, 15, and I'm
Right.
about the size of a 14-year-old. This week's trivia is I think it's Phobia.
Genophobia.
But you're genuinely not sure.
I'm not genuinely sure. A, fear of sinks. B, fear of fears. C, fear of falling. Or D, fear of needs.
I don't know the answer, but I hope it's A.
Just like you walk into a kitchen.
Yeah, like it makes me so happy. I could scare so many people.
You just have to like, or like they don't get scared like that. They just like scoot on the edge of the wall farthest
They
away
crap
from
on
it. I just think of the Pink Panthers.
Yes, yes.
So it's after the birthdays and everything.
Sure.
CJ?
Birthdays come after.
Okay, so we have our question from camp. It is, how do I get into being a missionary? What are the steps you guys took? So we're actually going to kind of answer both ways because I didn't know if you meant ministry or missionary.
We have went on a mission trip.
Yes.
But we are not missionaries.
No.
But
Yeah.
working in ministry is technically
Being
the
a-
same as being a missionary.
Yeah.
Just here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like,
Like,
they're comparable.
It could be both. I mean, honestly,
We got thrown into it.
it's one of those things where you show up on a Sunday and then they're like, wow, we're going to do this. No, I honestly, it's the way that like we started getting into ministry is just being being plugged into a church that is seeking God.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's truly like,
Well, and what I would extend that to, like, yeah, that was us. What I would extend that to is like, that was Jesus's model.
yeah.
So Jesus, I love this saying, and I pray this very regularly, but Jesus says, he joins the Father in the work he's doing. And so Jesus like was watching where God was working, and then he provided himself to God to do the work that he was doing around him, through him. And so that's kind of how ministry, like that's how you're supposed to get into ministry. If you take it upon yourself to think of a need and you make it happen, that's actually not doing ministry.
Yeah.
Ministry is seeing where God is working and then making yourself available for that work.
Yep.
And so, if God's working in the school system, you see that. And so making yourself available to teach students in the school system. If he's working in youth camp, like you see God working there and then providing your life, your body, yourself, your faculties to him to use for the work that he's already doing.
Yeah.
That's ministry. And I think that's actually very important. And I think that's actually something that's really overlooked in our day. Because a lot of people, there's very much, I think it's our generation, like the millennials and I guess you guys are millennials?
I'm the last
Okay,
millennial.
the three of us.
I don't know what I am.
What year were you born?
We'll adopt you. Okay. But I think there's really there's very much a crossover in millennials between good deeds like humanitarian.
Humanitarian.
I had to hear it on your lips before I could say humanity. Fear of sinks. There's this wanting to do like helping the poor, helping the homeless,
Doing things that make you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that overshadowing Christianity, and because you feel good when you do those things, we think that is Christianity, but actually that's not ministry.
Yeah.
That can be a part of ministry, but that's not actually ministry. Ministry is seeing where God is working and then providing your life to him to do that work through you. And so God could be working in the ministry of homelessness or whatever the case, but you seeing a need and doing something to make you feel good, that's actually not ministry.
No, because you're serving you.
Yeah.
At that point,
Yeah.
like you're trying to make yourself feel better.
So if I can continue answering.
Yes. You never stop.
So to the missionary, so this just ties in so well. I can't pass it up. So to the missionary thing. So Jamie and I went on a mission trip. There were other people there. It wasn't just us. There were 10 of us. We went to Haiti in 2015, which wow,
August.
it's almost been 10 years
It
ago.
has been, or no, it hasn't been, but it's been 9.
Yeah. So anyhow, so how that came about, so we actually went through a series here at the church called Radical by David Platt. And did I do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't understand.
Yeah, Radical was not written by Richard Nixon. But yeah. Kevin understood that joke because he was here in the administration of the Nixon.
I was alive.
That's too
Not
funny.
a crook.
That's too funny. Way off topic. So we went through this series. The whole point of the series was if you are comfortable in your Christianity, you don't need God. And so the whole point was like step out in faith and do something that only God can do through you.
Yep.
And so at the time, I'd never flown. I was terrified of all things needles. I'd never been out of the country. Really hadn't so I really at the conclusion of that series, all of the church we were so moved, and a lot of people were stepping out in faith into new areas. I really felt like the Lord was leading me to face my fears and to go on a missions trip for the first time. I had this burning passion for a missions trip, and it specifically to Haiti, but that required me to face all of these fears. And so how did we get into missionary? It was again by seeing where God was working, but then giving him our fears and allowing him to overcome them through us. And so that just tied in so well. I couldn't pass that up. We were going with the ministry route, but I just thought that really was
good. Yeah. That was good.
I would just back up what you said because you were speaking very general, where God is working, you know what I mean? So, my first time going to camp, okay, and you asked me to do prayer stations, and I was like, sure, I can do prayer stations, you know. And then when I told everyone else what I was doing, they're like, you're doing prayer stations? Like, whoa. But I had no idea how big of a deal. Anyway. But so it was by doing prayer stations that I realized, like, wow, there's like so many kids out there who don't have a clue as to what, and I was new to Christianity, you know what I mean? And I just thought, like, man, like, they need to know, you know? So I talked to a couple of people, and they were like, hey, you should do the podcast because the podcast is part of that. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I talked to Josh about doing the podcast, and he's like, yeah, we'll put you in about a month. He didn't say that, but it took like a month for me to become a regular. So then from there, then moving into LifeWise, like it's all the same vein, if you will, you know what I mean?
It all coincides with each other.
Right, is seeing how important it is for the gospel to reach the younger generation. You know what I mean? Like we talked several times, they're not in church. Yeah. Okay. So, you know, we have to go to them in schools. And I hear of so many other different ways that people are trying to reach youth. You know what I mean? And a lot of them, I'm like, I feel as though you're just compromising a bit too much to get them to show up. Right. You know what I mean? And I feel as though LifeWise, like, it's not compromising anything. Like, it's
Jesus is the main attraction. Not
exactly.
The
Exactly. Yes. Like that's a very good point. So reaching the youth with the gospel, Jesus centered, started with me from doing the prayer stations to the podcast to now LifeWise.
Yep. And that's what will happen. And as you'll gain more ministries along the way.
Well, I was thinking, I mean, that's really all three of your stories, and I my own story too. But I was thinking of the story of the talents, the parable of the talents that Jesus gives, and how he says, like, the one who had one, he gives, or that guy buried it, so he didn't get nothing. But the guy who had,
We're not talking about him.
who had like two, right? He gives him more and more and more, and so you continue to see God moving, and then he invests more in you and invests more in you to build his kingdom, and so that's how ministry is supposed to work.
Yeah. Very good. I love what you had to say.
Thank you.
So nice.
All right.
Very moving.
All right. Well, on to the birthdays.
Quite the transition there.
Yes, I am.
We need confetti or something.
Yes. You guys could just make the noise.
Did you just Richard Nixon? I think I just really have him on my mind today.
That's a weird person.
It sure is. Yes, I don't know.
Well, happy birthday to Tiffany France, April Branham, and Hope Barber. Babe.
I think it's Barber.
I think it's Barber. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it's Barber.
I don't know that we had a Hope Baber.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that's our hope. Our hope.
My hope is in Jesus.
Like, it's the one that comes to our church. It's Barber. Yeah.
You mean our hope?
Yes. Did you not mean it's fine. We're all completely fine. Don't worry about it.
Vote Nixon.
We don't even have to use that on the blooper because it's in the middle.
It's in the middle of the podcast.
So we actually have mail. Woohoo! And this is from Missy Hammock. I always love the NOIC podcast. However, the questions from camp have been so good and really give me things to think about. Thank you for all you do. You are making a difference.
Thanks, Missy.
Yeah, thanks
for always tuning in and always being so encouraging.
Yep. Well, if everybody is good.
I wouldn't say that. There are none who are good. No, none.
If everybody is mediocre.
That's us. We're ready. Let's go.
Thank you guys for joining us today. And, just remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, let us know, give us mail. It'll be fun. Answer the trivia question. That's a lot of fun. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.
So we've been talking about fears this munch.
And cut.
Wow, that wasn't even the whole first sentence.
Can you please just upload just that? That's the whole podcast.
I'll just get mail next week.
Ready? I should be just asking that to myself.